Broadcasting from the Keep Moving Forward Creator Studio, it's time for the Keep Moving Forward podcast. Join us every week as we dive into the stories of remarkable current and former athletes that have transitioned into the real world. Now here's your host, Katie Galli.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 158th episode of the Keep Moving Forward podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galli. Today in the Keep Moving Forward Creator Studio, I have with me someone very, very special. He is someone who I actually personally learned a lot from growing up in athletics and kind of just in life in general. He is the account executive at Navex Global, and he is a former Georgia Tech ice hockey player. He's my big brother, Nick Galli. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing great, Katie. Thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast finally. So.
Yeah, I'm excited. 158 episodes in. Finally got you on one.
Finally had some room for me, I guess.
I guess snuck you in there. And it's really cool because today we are actually broadcasting from my studio. So this is actually an in-person interview. This is the first time we've ever done it. We're actually, in the next couple of weeks, going to be rolling out a YouTube channel. So if you guys want to check out, this is going to be the very first episode on there. It's going to be our video interview, but don't forget to subscribe on iTunes because you can also listen to the audio version of this podcast with Mr. Nick Galli too. And I know Nick's very excited to be.
Well, I think I heard that was going to be the first video on this YouTube channel.
Yeah, the first video.
The very first.
The very first.
Very first, guys.
Yeah. Do you feel special?
I feel pretty special right now. That was a fantastic intro. And I'm excited. I'm going to be number one.
Yes,
numero uno.
Always number one. So Nick, as you know, because you've listened to my podcast before, you know the first question that I always ask my interviewees, but it's kind of a funny one because it's where did you grow up and how, if at all, was your childhood shaped by athletics? Even though we grew up together and I know very well how your childhood was shaped, our audience might not know. So can you enlighten us a little bit with the answer to that question?
I'd be happy to, Katie. It is a good question. So both you and me were born in Atlanta a long time ago. And then, not that long ago. We're still young and wild and free. But moved to New Jersey when we were quite young. And then from there, kind of lived through high school and then moved back down to the Atlanta area for college and things like that. But as far as athletics, I think that's something that both of us were involved with, since we were pretty young. I want to say 4 or 5 years old, playing multiple sports almost at all times, really, between hockey and baseball. When I was very little, played, soccer, football, things like that, of course. When I got into high school, I ended up stopped playing baseball about halfway through. Switched over to starting to play golf, which is kind of, a really fun thing. Something I still do with all my friends and everything. So, but yeah, as far as, sports and everything I did between hockey and stuff, it was an amazing experience, really, for everything I do in my life right now. It just, a lot of things with sports, it's kind of a thing where it's more or less what our grandfather would call is a microcosm of life, or a bigger picture, you could say, right? Where whether you're playing baseball, trying to figure out how to hit an outside pitch, or whether you're playing hockey, trying to figure out how to hit the net with your slap shot, which frankly I still can't do 27 years later or whatever it is.
Work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. Yeah, I'll get there. My men's league team will be happy about it.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really just about, taking those small lessons, figuring out kind of what you're doing wrong in life, kind of a thing, and learn, making those adjustments, when you're, batting, making adjustments to hit the ball better, or, hit the net more in hockey, or, something like that, hit the golf ball better, making those adjustments, figure out what you're doing wrong, and not really dwelling on your mistakes. I mean, baseball is a great example where, if you're in the Hall of Fame, you're batting probably 300, which means if you bat 10 times, 7 times out of those 10, you're getting out, kind of a thing. You're not reaching base safely. So,
wow.
But you're still going to the Hall of Fame, even though you're getting 30%, which in school, if you're getting 30% on your tests, which I've never done, it's
never.
Quite the opposite effect there. But,
yeah,
sports really helps you, like I said, it's kind of like a microcosm, right? It's,
right.
Learning from your mistakes, learning what you're doing, forgetting about them and when I mean forget about them, don't dwell on them, don't let them get you down.
Right.
And then title of your podcast, Keep Moving Forward,
Yeah.
learn something from it, forget about it, and then keep moving forward and get better. So,
Absolutely.
And also sports too are just, it's such a great thing, especially with team sports, because you learn how to work with people, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
where,
absolutely.
I mean, everything you do, I mean, there's 7-8 billion people on this planet now. You're going to have to interact with people. You know, some people are very extroverted and everything. I'm more of an introverted person, you could say, even though I have extroverted qualities or moments, you could say. A lot of times I like to be the quiet person in the room, like to sit down and just listen to people talk, kind of a thing, maybe chime in now and then. But yeah, that's kind of, you know, some good things about sports, really just teamwork, figuring that out, working together with people you may not like, you may not have anything in common with, just overcoming and accomplishing, you know, that goal, you know, whether you're in business, whether you're playing a sport, whether you're working with your family, it's never an individual effort, you could say. It's always, you know, you're doing your own thing. Everyone's kind of, you know, has their own job or their own title, but at the end of the day, you're all working together to accomplish something, something bigger, essentially.
Absolutely. You just dropped some serious knowledge there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. You know?
The Nick Galli memoir is coming out soon.
I'll have to add that to my title.
There you go.
Knowledge dropper.
Yes, exactly. And two, I know, I mean, clearly sports, I mean, it shaped both of our lives, but you in particular with baseball at an early age and then delving into the world of ice hockey too, which up north, that's a, you know, a big thing to discover. But then coming down south, even continuing your ice hockey career, it's kind of I remember, I mean, coming to different games, being able to see just kind of the different communities that rallied around the sport. But then early on, I mean, from high school, when you decided that you wanted to stop playing baseball and really focus in on ice hockey, what kind of drove that decision, and what really piqued your interest? That's okay.
Sorry, that's my diabetes.
Yeah, we're going to go into that a little bit later if you're beeping. It's
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. He's also a type 1 diabetic. And so I'm going to talk about a little bit later how that kind of played into sports. But particularly early on in high school with diving into ice hockey, what piqued your interest there? Why were you so passionate about that sport over any other?
Just kind of, you know, just it was something because I started playing hockey when I was pretty young. I started playing roller hockey. You actually played roller hockey with me back in the day. I did.
Street hockey.
Yeah. And then moved to from street hockey to kind of ice hockey when I was pretty young as well, and just kept playing through it. And it was just something I always had a ton of fun doing. It was always fun. You know, traveling to different rinks around New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, et cetera, and then in college around Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, et cetera. Just, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I like team sports. It's a fun thing. The game of hockey it's fast, it's aggressive, it's fun. At the same time, it's very strategic, which is very cool. Very different from a sport like baseball, where it's a little bit slower moving. Hockey, you always got to keep your head on a swivel. You're always paying attention. The game moves so quickly. And it's a game, too, where, like, the faster you move typically results in, you know, good things like goals or, you know, killing penalties, power plays, etc. So something I really, really love to play. Still do play when I can. I play now. A little bit of ice hockey for like a men's league team. Yeah. Then I play in ball hockey, which is like not really, I guess it's technically a sport, but it's basically, because I think I may have described this to you a little bit, but more or less you're playing on a full-size roller hockey rink, right? But instead of wearing skates, you're just wearing shoes, and you're still wearing like shin pads and elbow pads and your gloves and that kind of stuff. And you're literally just running around as fast as you can with a ball, you know, instead of a puck. And it's fun at the same time. It's much more exhausting than ice hockey.
It seems like it. Because
when you can skate, you can like glide, like you can just like take a couple strides and just like you just kind of coast along and go. Mm-hmm. In ball hockey, it's like basketball. If you keep your feet, if you don't keep your feet moving, you're just kind of standing there.
You're standing still.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good exercise for that. So it's something I love to play as well.
Yeah, and so it's great too that it's something. I mean, you developed a love of ice hockey at such an early age, and it's really cool to hear what really sparked that love. That how strategic it is, but how fast paced it is also.
Yeah.
That didn't occur to me. I mean, I know I love watching it because it is so fast paced, but the strategy that goes behind it and making sure that you have to be literally on your game every time you're on the ice, I guess. I mean, you have to be just ready for whatever can come.
Yeah, and it's at the same time, it's a hard sport to pick up because you got to learn how to skate first.
Right.
and that deters a lot of people away, like immediately. They get on the ice, they slip and fall. They're like, oh, screw this, I don't play hockey anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly a fun game. It's something I've loved playing my whole life, and I'm happy to still keep playing it a little bit.
Yeah, it's really cool that you get that opportunity too to continue your to continue just playing with friends and just building that community. And so yeah.
I mean, from a social aspect, it's a lot of fun
it's
too.
Great.
So.
And it's a good, obviously, like you're saying, with ball hockey and both ice hockey, it's great exercise. But before that, I mean, you got to play in high school, focusing in, and then you got to actually take your hand at the collegiate level too. So what was that transition like? How did you decide that you wanted to go to Georgia Tech, and how did the opportunity arise that you could play ice hockey at the collegiate level?
Well, as far as going to Georgia Tech, our father went there, as you may know.
I don't know. Do I?
Yes, we have and our mother worked there as well. So we have some very close ties to Georgia Tech as, an amazing school, one of the best schools in the South.
Yep.
As soon as I got in, I pretty much knew I wanted to go there. It's one of those things too where it was pretty easy for our family as well, just because I feel like we were sort of planning to move back to Atlanta at some point anyway when we started reaching high school.
For sure.
I've always liked visiting the South and Georgia and stuff when we would come here growing up on vacations and things like that. So wanted to get back down here, warmer weather, nicer people. Traffic sucks, but that's,
it's okay.
That's
something we can't avoid.
Across the bear,
Exactly.
But yeah, and then really just kind of playing hockey was just, I came into college not really knowing really what I wanted to do, which I feel like a lot of kids do. I mean, some kids go into college, they know exactly what they want to major in, what they want to do, et cetera. I was one of the few that I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't know much about careers just yet or things. I just know I got into this school. They have a very great, math, business, science programs, et cetera. Might as well go there. And then from there, just kind of, sorting through activities and things they had at the school. They had a club hockey team. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty fun, something I'm used to. I'll probably meet people with similar backgrounds like me.
Right.
And, it worked out really well, whereas it turned out to be pretty much my main college experience, or like really the main driver of fun behind what I did in college when I was not in classes or doing, studying, taking tests or whatever. So
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. It's interesting playing, because while it's a club sport, no one really knows what hockey is very, very much in Georgia. Atlanta is the only city to lose 2 professional hockey teams.
Wow. Represent ATL.
Yeah. So it's funny where you would go to, to play a game or something and people think you're like an NCAA D1 athlete kind of thing, like a football player would have been or something in the South. So sometimes you were signing autographs after games or meeting, fans or whatever. So it's kind of a fun experience, and throw on your college letters and play against rival schools like Florida State or Georgia or somewhere like that. It was a lot of fun. So.
Man. That really
cool.
is awesome. Yeah. And I mean, too, it doesn't matter, like you're saying, if it's NCAA, D1, D2, D3, club, NAIA, whatever it is, the idea that you get to play at the collegiate level is so incredible to have that chance. And then for you specifically with hockey, because I mean, I remember going to like the Savannah State tournaments, having those experiences of people literally coming up to you and getting your autograph, little kids wanting to talk to you because you were that perceived idol. And it's just it's amazing that, I guess, a sport that you fell in love with in high school and at an early age, but really started to focus in on, it brought you down this path that led you eventually to Georgia Tech and this opportunity to play kind of on a huge stage, maybe a bigger stage than you thought you ever would.
Yeah, exactly. And that Savannah tournament was a great example of that, where you're playing in front of a few thousand fans, which in high school I never did that.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see. People are chanting. They had I think the band came for a few years to that tournament, and they had it was cool. It was like a football game atmosphere, like that. I would go with my friends to watch the football game and cheer and stuff.
Yeah,
that kind of fun atmosphere. But I was playing in the game. I was a part of it, and it was really cool to do every single year. So
yeah. And I mean, I loved, as a spectator, as your sister, I liked going too. It was really cool to see that. It was surreal because, I mean, I remember watching you in high school play, and it was nothing compared to what it was like at college. I mean, having so many people come, and I remember a little kid coming up to you after the game asking you for your autograph. It was just so cool to see.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was just, and I mean, from the spectator perspective as well as obviously the athlete perspective, just having that chance and having, I don't know, being able to be that kind of person for someone, that role model for a younger kid, maybe, and then in the South especially, maybe if they want to learn about the sport of ice hockey, they could get involved with it just because they saw you play.
Yeah, exactly. I should have like printed out a picture of myself and signed it for the kid. I'm sure it'd be worth a lot more.
Yes, of course. See it on eBay.
Yeah, exactly.
For $100.
Oh, yes.
Signed picture of Nick Galli, GT hockey star.
More than $100.
More than obviously.
Yeah,
Obviously. Yes, of
like
course,
a billion,
of course. Billion, probably what it's going for now. I mean, you graduated. You're an alum.
Exactly.
So it just goes up
the
in
sky's
value.
The limit
yes,
here, so.
Exactly. So I mean, having this incredible experience at Tech, and I mean, having sports just shape your whole life. But early on too, I mean, your pump went off a little bit earlier, but I wanted to dive into too, because it's something that I know you never make a big deal about because you're a type 1 diabetic, but it's never been who you are. I mean, in anything you've done, you've always just kept a low profile, but you're always just so good at managing stress and handling things that life throws at you and overcoming obstacles. But you were diagnosed at a young age with type 1 diabetes. So I wonder, can you just talk a little bit about what was that like and how that kind of impacted you day to day, especially with regards to playing a contact sport like hockey?
Yeah. And it still has, a huge effect on when I work out or if I play hockey or, really anything I do, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was 12 years old, I think, when I was diagnosed with diabetes. I guess I'm not sure if it was the flu or I just got really sick somehow or something. But basically my body was trying to fight off the infection or the virus or whatever it may have been and ended up attacking an organ called your pancreas, and that really just creates your insulin, essentially, kind of a thing. And the insulin is used to break down the sugars in your body and all that kind of good stuff. So after I was sick, I started feeling a little bit better, and then eventually I just started feeling a lot worse, just because I was just very tired all the time, going to the bathroom like every 30 minutes. I was always thirsty. All I wanted to do was sleep, just, feeling terrible. So eventually our mom brought us me back to the doctor. And then he was like, yeah, you should probably go to the hospital. So then I went to the hospital and I think I spent a good 3 days there, maybe, when I was 12. Was kind of in a little bit, not in shock. I was pretty calm throughout the whole process, but
Yeah.
I just didn't understand what was going on. I was like, well, why am I here? I understand I have diabetes, no idea what it is. I just knew nurses kept coming in every few hours to give me shots before I ate something or before I was going to bed or something like that. I was always pricking my finger. It took a long time to, kind of get used to it. But now, I mean, I was almost 15 years ago now. It's just something I've just kind of dealt with my whole life, or, a little bit more than half my life now. I'm just so used to it. It's something I don't necessarily think about anymore. It's just something I do every day on a cadence and things like that. And obviously when you play any kind of sport or you're active, you're out in the sun, you just got to be wary of it just because your blood sugar can go up and down, sort of a thing. When it goes down or up, you feel pretty terrible to an extent. But, luckily I'm able to kind of manage that pretty okay. I've had a couple instances where, like, playing contact sports, like you mentioned, like I've gotten checked and like my little insulin thing that I wear on my stomach, like, ripped off or something like that. So, things like that. But it's something that, like, I've always just kind of managed on my own. I never really liked when people got too involved with it. It just kind of, like, annoyed me.
Right.
I never wanted to be treated like someone different or someone who needed special needs to an extent. So I always tried to, like, manage it fully to myself, kind of a thing. So and I think that's definitely helped. I can always get better at managing it. I think every diabetic can to an extent. But yeah, just something I've lived with my whole life, and something I'm gonna have probably for the rest of my life. So just got to keep living with it. And obviously there's a lot of cool technology things, like I have the pump here and the insulin thing on my stomach, and now they have these, like, continuous things that check your blood sugar always. So there's a lot of help to it for sure. It's obviously there's a lot worse things you could have than diabetes, so it's more or less just an additional chore that's just got to keep a lookout for.
Yeah. And I mean, that's an incredible perspective to have. And I mean, I know you've always had it your whole life, because I remember, obviously you remember it better, but I remember when you were diagnosed, I think I was in 5th grade. I remember calling you when you were in the hospital. And yeah, I mean, nobody really knew. And I mean, at 12, not even knowing what is diabetes, I mean, but you had it, and it was something you decided, or you knew that you were going to have to manage, something that you saw your fingers were getting pricked, you're getting insulin shots. You might not have even understood at that time what they were, but then you learned and you just owned it and you figured it out. So in that time, that process of when you were diagnosed to I mean, I guess the time where you said that you kind of accepted that you were diabetic and you started to really own it and figure out, okay, this is something I actually have to manage every day. That gap, I guess, how did you bridge it, and what eventually brought you to the point where you were just decided, okay, I have diabetes. This is my life.
I mean, it just kind of slowly took its toll, I guess, as far as accepting the fact, okay, I have diabetes, I got to do this. Obviously, our mother was a huge help with that, just because she was always up my butt about everything. Like, Nick, what's your blood sugar? Go check your blood sugar. Take your insulin. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. So that was certainly helpful. And I mean, her just riding me as far as that, taking me to the doctor, helping me out with it was a huge help. And eventually, I just kind of accepted it. I started doing it more and more on my own. To just so I could be a little bit more self-reliant to an extent, and from there, here I am, kind of a thing. Now I kind of manage everything on my own, and I mean, granted, I have a doctor to help me who I see now and then and stuff, but
you
so it's not the hardest thing to manage, right? So
right,
there's a lot of harder things you can have, but it's just kind of one of those tedious little things that like eventually you just get so used to that you forget you even have it. So
right. And it's just a day-to-day thing. I mean, you said like the doctor helps you, but of course you have to manage it day-to-day. That's on you now.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but yeah, and now I'm to a point where like people obviously like if I'm like at the pool or something, they'll see me in my little insulin pump. They'll ask about it and stuff, and that's it's like one of those things where I forget I'm even worrying. I'm like, oh yeah, I have diabetes. That's what it is. So something I tell people.
Just a little pocket for snacks. That's what it is. That's my snack
pocket. That's on the other side.
Yes, that's the other side is snack pocket. And two, just because something that I had actually learned, as through the course of you having diabetes and trying to understand it, the difference between highs and lows. So like you're saying, you manage those as you play sports specifically. Yeah. But those are some things that you sometimes necessarily don't control. Sometimes can't they just happen? A high can happen, a low can happen. And so has it ever happened to you when you were playing a sport and you had to, how do you manage that if it happens on the ice?
Yeah, so you can, you certainly feel it kind of thing. It's like if your blood sugar is like getting low, you just, again, like I said, you feel bad, like you get like kind of tunnel vision, you just feel out of it. But one thing I always do is just carry like a bottle of Gatorade around. Gatorade's real good at just jacking your blood sugar up pretty quickly.
Okay.
And typically, whether I'm traveling, like in an airport or something like that, or if I'm playing hockey, I typically always have like a bottle of Gatorade with me.
Just in case.
So that's kind of a simple, quick, easy fix for it. When your blood sugar is high, it's a little bit different. You just got to dial up some insulin on the old insulin pump here. And the only tricky part about that is it just takes a little bit of time for the insulin to kick in and drop your blood sugar to an extent. It's not like very quick, too quick of a process. But But yeah, between the insulin pump, the amazing fact that there's food everywhere all around Atlanta, those are certainly helpful.
Right.
So makes it easier.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, having the experience of managing it and allowing, you were an athlete your whole life. And so I love too that it wasn't something that you were going to allow to derail you. You're like, I'm still an athlete. I'm a hockey player. I'm a baseball player. I'm a golfer. I'm still going to do all these things regardless of being a type 1 diabetic. You just had it was your normal life, and you were going to figure out how diabetes was going to work into that normal life. Yeah,
exactly. I don't think it would necessarily hold me back from doing most things. Now and then I think of scenarios where it'd be a huge problem. Like we were watching TV upstairs and some guy was tied to a chair for hours. If I was tied to a chair for hours, that might be a problem if you're diabetic. But I don't think I'm ever gonna be tied to a chair for a few hours.
Are you planning on being in a situation like that?
No, but sometimes it's fun to think about.
Right, of course. I wonder what
a very creative mind. So.
What would be the biggest problem a diabetic would face tied to a chair?
Yeah, But one thing too is if you're out in the sun for a long time, you can be worried about your insulin and your insulin pump going bad. Okay. If you're swimming and if you're in a hot tub maybe for too long or something like that, maybe that can affect it. But overall, I just try to be sure that I carry additional supplies kind of wherever I go, whether it's to work, whether it's on a little vacation trip or something like that. I was at a bachelor party a few weeks ago, just had a whole bunch of insulin, a backup insulin pump, and all stuff with me just in the event something did happen. I had everything I needed to not make it a big deal. So it's just more or less planning like anything else you do. Just being more or less prepared for where you're going. Like I think the week before that, I was in Costa Rica, which is like, it was very nice, but obviously it's not a country as developed as America in terms of like healthcare and, having quick access to medicines and things like that. So I obviously carried a whole bunch of insulin with me and other things to regulate my blood sugar and things like that. So
yeah. And so I think you're right. So that's a huge part of it then, is just being prepared for the unknown, not knowing what can happen. So just knowing that no matter what could occur, you're ready for it.
It's a microcosm. Like
it's a microcosm.
like
not a macrocosm. It does. It applies to everything.
I know.
Microcosms.
But yeah, it's like if you're prepared. I mean, again, whether you're prepared for, like my job, I do sales. If I'm prepared for a sales call, it's probably going to go a lot better. If I'm prepared to go to a bachelor party with my friends with diabetes, I'm probably going to be prepared for that too. So
time to get jacked up on insulin,
right,
guys.
Exactly. So it's just a matter of being prepared, understanding what you're going to do next, and sometimes you got to account for like variables. Like, okay, well, what if this happens? What if I'm staying in a place where there's not a pharmacy nearby or something like that? Better bring extra, just small things like that.
Yeah.
So things you think about too when you plan our little trips to Florida and Disney World and things like that.
Yeah. Right. Just a little different,
exactly.
but
yeah, but
still planning, of course.
Again,
of course, microcosm. Exactly. Title of this episode is microcosm. So fast forward a little bit. I mean, of course, so diagnosed at 12 with type 1 diabetes, right? And carried it through, obviously you still are a type 1 diabetic at almost 27.
Yeah,
almost 27 in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So, I mean, fast forward.
Actually,
though,
it's a month from today, I will be 27.
Wow. 1 month
everyone
from.
Everyone mark your calendars.
Mark your calendars. 1 month from today, Nick Galli turns 27. So, looking to then, I mean, you going back to playing collegiate ice hockey. So diabetes being, having that kind of shape, being prepared, taking that into college with you. And then two, having the experience as a collegiate athlete, differences from high school to college, and also from playing in New Jersey to playing in Georgia, just the differences of culture and community. But looking forward from there, and I mean, I know the Savannah tournaments were a big standout to you at your time, or through your time at Georgia Tech. But was there maybe an experience that you had playing Georgia Tech hockey that maybe now, or even since you graduated, that's really stood out to you and kind of hit home and reminded you why you continue to play the sport, why that sport really just held you, it was in your heart for so long?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of a story of like, you put in a lot of work, you don't see effort, and then eventually, or you don't see results, and then eventually the results happen. So I think it was either my sophomore or my junior year. I just couldn't score a goal. Like, it was really funny. We got to a point where like we were sitting in the locker room and we were losing, and one of our coaches, who's this big like Canadian intimidating guy, he's no longer with the team, unfortunately. I wish he was. I haven't seen him in a few years either now, but he came in, just started yelling at everyone on the team for everything's wrong, and then he just turns to me, he goes, "Galli, could you buy a goal?" and then like, it was one of those things where like he said it that way, but like I had a pretty good relationship with him, where like he knew I tried and worked my balls off and everything, and I just looked at him and he goes, "Coach, they're expensive." And then everyone in the room just kind of started laughing, and it lifted the team up a little bit. I don't remember if we won or not, but yeah, that was part of it. And then eventually because the season's kind of broken up into two halves, like a fall and then like the spring semester. And the spring semester, I started scoring like a whole bunch of like goals, just like everything I was doing previously. I was continuously still like working hard and playing hockey in that kind of way, but all of a sudden things just started happening for me better. Things started coming together, and eventually I just started scoring a whole bunch of goals. I had like a hat trick against Georgia one game, in front of a lot of people, which was really awesome. Probably my favorite game I ever played in. And then I had a few other like multi-goal games and things like that. So just kind of, it was cool just because I put in a lot of work into the fall, both with working out in the gym as well as just playing and trying hard and everything, and eventually it all just kind of came together. So
yeah,
it was sort of a nice moment. Again, a microcosm.
Okay, a microcosm. Always a microcosm.
Right. Well, it's true in a lot of things though. Yeah. Like even in sales, like sales can be very tough. Like I just transitioned into like a new sales territory in my company.
Yeah.
And it was a territory that I guess didn't really perform well over the past few years. Like, just clients weren't buying things, and they're still not, frankly. But I ran into a similar struggle when I was in my previous sales territory there. But it's just a matter of putting in that work, those fundamentals, and if you wait enough time and keep doing the right things right, kind of, you'll see results from there. Sometimes you have to be patient.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And I love, putting in the work ethic and putting in the drive, knowing what it's going to take, and two, having that shaped your whole life by important figures in your life, like Deefa, our grandfather, and our dad and our mom, and instilling that within you. But then two, owning that, figuring out how am I going to actually apply this to life. And it starts in sports because it's something that we both know intimately and you grew up around hockey. That was your sport. You loved it. Yeah. But then now seeing that all of that work ethic and what you learned directly transfers over into day-to-day life and with sales. And I love the most, though, was the first thing that came to mind was, of course, the work ethic piece, which is, of course, something you possess. But the first story was your coach yelling at you and you coming back with a snappy retort. And that's just something you've done your whole life. He's so good at just making light of a situation. And when people are stressed or nervous or maybe down, you're just so good at bringing them up. And I think that's something that is uniquely you, and it helps as far, one, being a diabetic, and two, just whatever comes at you, life's obstacles, you're able to, and it's not that it's making light of it in a way that diminishes the severity of it or diminishes the gravity of the obstacle, but it's something that it's just something that you kind of naturally fall into. So I love that was kind of the first thing you recounted.
Yeah, it's weirdly kind of a defense mechanism, you could say. I mean, crap happens to everybody, right? Yeah. It's just how you deal with it. And granted, I get stressed and frustrated and everything too, but
of course,
sometimes you just gotta look at the crap happening at you or a situation that you're in and just laugh about it for a little bit, just escape it for a second, make a quick joke or laugh, take a walk, do whatever, and figure out how you're going to attack the problem and get better to an extent. So that's a big thing too, I think.
Yeah, that's really good because it's looking at it from a different angle rather than just getting tunnel vision, pigeonholed down into the problem. Maybe finding the light in the situation or the hilarity in it and taking it allows you to pull back.
And sometimes when you're in that mindset of frustration, sometimes you're narrow-minded, right? You're only thinking about things in one way.
Right.
A lot of times if you turn the situation around or whatever, flip it upside down, whatever you want to call it, you're looking at it a little bit differently, a little bit wider view, and then maybe the solution is a different path to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's something you never even would have thought about, something that never would have even crossed your mind, but just because you were in that mindset, you can think about it. So
yeah.
Again, that also comes back with talking to people and being helpful with others because everyone has their own view, their own vision. Sometimes when you talk with other people, they have a different vision, and it helps bring things together. So.
Yeah. That's really good too. Just getting different perspectives, and even from people within the same realm, like within the same sport that you play or within the same career path that you're on, but also from people just completely outside that realm. So learning just wherever you can.
Yeah, exactly right. I certainly think so.
Yeah. So, from there, having these incredible experiences at Georgia Tech, one as a university, and so having being in Atlanta and learning a bunch of things about, what career path you wanted to take, and then two, having the experiences that you had as a hockey player. I wonder, coming up on graduation, what that kind of looked like for you, how you were, or how you decided you were going to navigate that transition from collegiate life to, quote, real world. And I know you still play hockey, but once you, I guess, initially exited and kind of left behind that organized athletic world, did you have your sights set on a specific career path that you wanted to go down to really focus in on, or
no
no not exactly. So then
spoiler
alert no, which is great because that's the people who listen to this episode need this. So for you then, when you did transition, not knowing what you wanted to do next, how did you navigate it? How did you pull yourself through that transitional period?
I mean, it's a tough transition, and even for someone who like me who tries to make light of harder situations or things like that, it's tough. It's one of those things where like you're in college, everyone's in all of your friends, your peers, etc. You're on a similar stage, right? You're about to graduate. You're looking at entry level jobs across a whole bunch of different things, and then all of a sudden things just kind of flip. Like school ends, all of a sudden your friends are talking about moving in with their girlfriends, getting married and stuff, and it's just like you're taking a step back. You're like, whoa, I did not even think about that kind of thing. And it's just it makes you nervous, frustrated, scared that you're like, oh my God, I have to keep up with these people and things like that. And some people they know exactly what they want to do when they graduate college. They want to go to get their MBA. They want to go to law school. They want to start a family. They want to teach, whatever you want to do. And if you are smart enough and diligent enough to figure that out at a young age, that's amazing. Good for you. But holy crap, I am not that smart to know that. I still, frankly, don't know what I want to do. Like, while I do sales now, while I really like what I do with my job and everything, I don't want to do it forever kind of a thing. I want to transition, learn more. I think a big part of maybe just life in general is just kind of experiencing multiple things, right? Doing things that you like, things that you don't like, really trying to figure out and better understand what you want to do. Because I think unless you're very passionate, understand exactly what you want to do, if you just kind of pick a career path because you think it's safe or it's what maybe your parents want or your coach wants or something like that. Yeah. And then when you wake up one day and you're, on your deathbed or, near the end of your life and you're thinking back, man, I wish I kind of did something else. So I think a big part of that transition is understanding that you're going to be okay. Like,
yeah.
Like, it's because and it too, being out of school for 4 years now as well. It stinks. Everyone's doing different things. You can't get a hold of people. You don't know where you want to live, where you want to go, what you want to do, how you're going to afford anything. It's really tough. But just kind of keeping that open mind that it's going to be okay. You're probably going to make some type of career change pretty quickly. I did. I worked for a State Farm agent for 6 months and said, this sucks. I'm going somewhere else.
Taking my talents elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just kind of figuring out that it's going to be okay. And just because you don't have a plan or your life figured out by the time you're 25, heck, even 30, even older than that, that's completely okay. It's not a race,
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, as you would say. And one thing, oh my God, I forgot my amazing phrase. It's about the journey, not the destination.
There you go.
Exactly.
For the Nick quotes that almost every day. Just
yeah, because
that's his phrase.
If you go on vacation with Katie's sometimes she's a very pointed individual, you could say. We're just
pretty sure I'm always that way.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. I'm trying to be nice. But yeah, Katie can be she knows exactly what she wants to do. Like, okay, vacation, let's do this and this and this. And sometimes we're like, Katie, just chillax. Let's hang out for a little bit. Let's do this, then this. We're going to get there. We don't have to get there right now. Let's enjoy the trip there to an extent.
Let's enjoy the journey.
Sometimes in the car you want to take that extra stop or something like that.
Never. So there were times in high school where we would go. Nick's older. He would take us driving, and we were going somewhere, and he wouldn't enter in the address into his GPS. He refused to. And one time, I remember we came up on a roundabout, and he just kept going around the roundabout for no reason. Do you forget about that? Yeah, I got so mad. But it's true. I think we had a good yin and yang growing up because we're only 11 months apart, and so Nick's the journey, that's not the destination, and I guess I'm more destination oriented. So it's good.
Me and Libby, the three caballeros.
The three caballeros, yes.
Going around and around and around. Roundabout.
That stupid roundabout. But it's kind of a metaphor for life, I guess. Yeah. You got to exit eventually.
Yeah, it's a microcosm.
It's a microcosm. Always.
Yeah.
So from there, the time you spent 6 months with the State Farm agent.
Yeah.
And then
it was one of those things where I frankly didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated. I had a business degree from a very good school, which I was happy and proud about, of course. But I didn't know what I wanted to do, whether it be sales or finance or IT. I got an IT degree. I was like, I don't know if I want to do IT to an extent. So I worked for a State Farm agent for about 6 months trying to figure that out. Realized I just didn't want to do that kind of a thing. And, work in insurance and that kind of stuff. It's just kind of a weird industry that, while some people love it and everything, I just didn't really have a passion for it, you could say, or just want to do it.
Right.
From there, I kind of transitioned into software, which I thought was just kind of a better field, going to Georgia Tech and everything, plus everything our dad does involving software and IT and that kind of stuff. So just kind of landed on that. The one thing I did like about State Farm was just I was talking to a lot of people because I was a customer service rep.
Okay.
So interacting with people, really listening to what they had to say to an extent. If I had to sell them something, try to overcome their objections and things like that. And eventually landed at a very small software company, kind of in a little bit of a sales role to an extent, which I liked. And then from there, took that job and moved to another job a few years later, which is kind of more sales focused, which is kind of where I am now. So.
With Navex.
Yeah, exactly. And again,
Navex
it's, people, especially I think when they're just out of college, they job hop like everyone else. And I think that's okay to do to an extent. I mean, while some people say like, oh, you can't have this many things on your resume, or you can't do this or that. Maybe that's true, but like, heck, you're 23, 24. You're trying to figure out what the heck you want to do for the next 42 years of your life before you retire. It's like, better pick something good, right? Or at least move around and think about other things. So
figure it out. And then too, I mean, having the perspective you have now though of realizing that it's okay to try out different things, and realizing you don't want to spend your life doing something you hate. You want to find something you actually enjoy doing. You wake up every day and you like going to your job. You like doing what you do. And so when you were at State Farm to where you are now, how did you discover that? How did you kind of have that? Was there an epiphany moment that kind of occurred to you and you decided, I don't want to be on this path anymore. I want to try something new?
Not necessarily an epiphany moment. It just kind of like gradually got worse and worse and worse to an extent where I didn't understand things. I didn't want to understand things.
Yeah.
Like you said, getting up in the morning, I was like, oh, screw it. I have to go to work, kind of a thing. But then I guess as I changed career paths, I got a little bit more excited to go to work. And I've never been a morning person in my entire life. I'm terrible at getting up, whether it's a Saturday or a Monday.
Yep.
But yeah, just, to have a little bit more motivation and enthusiasm and excitement about what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's a huge help for sure. I mean, that's kind of like you. I mean, you getting up at 5 a.m. or not 5 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever time you get up to do CrossFit, but you're passionate about it. You're motivated about it. And, and the fact that you have the will to do that is amazing. So it's sort of a similar thing.
Things. Yeah. It's good. It's whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, right?
Yeah.
It's something that's going to drive you, something you're passionate about. And two, though, I mean, that's amazing. You found this career path. You really like being in software. You like this company. You like Navex Global. And obviously you're doing very well in it, because actually he mentioned earlier he went to Costa Rica. That was because he had an exceptional year. Why did you get to go to Costa Rica?
Oh, so that was for, it's called the President's Club trip. Basically, as like a sales rep, if you have like a certain like quota or like amount you have to like sell to an extent for a year. So I like over exceeded it by like a certain amount or whatever.
Yeah.
So for doing that, they send you, the other people who do that, and a couple other members of the company like to a place. So the last year was Costa Rica. So it was fun to do.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet. And so clearly it's something that you like, you're passionate about, and so now you're excelling at it. It's not like you're saying you're fighting to get out of bed. You're driven to get out of bed and you excel. And it's also because too, drawing on your athletic background, I'm sure that plays a part, especially in the sales world. Trying to talk to someone and impress upon them the passion that you have for the product that you're selling or the thing that you're doing. And so having that experience from being a collegiate athlete, being an athlete in general, a hockey player, that love and drive that you have from loving the technicality of ice hockey, the speed of it. Yeah. And so learning the pieces of software sales that you love too, so that you can impart those upon the people that you're trying to sell your products to.
Yeah, exactly. And a big part of it is just being competitive to an extent. Like, obviously you learn that playing sports, no matter what sport it is, you want to be competitive. And I think one thing as you realize it's, again, sports are a microcosm.
Yes.
Whether you're competing against another team or, something like that, your biggest person you want to beat should always be yourself to an extent, right? You always want to be better than the day you were before.
Always.
Yeah. And that just, your biggest, I think it was in Rocky or Creed or one of those movies, but he's like, it's Creed because he's standing in front of Michael B. Jordan, but Michael B. Jordan's like standing in front of a mirror. He's like, that's your biggest enemy or something like that. But it was a cool line.
I feel like I'm in the movie right now.
He's like, I believe it in boxing. I believe it in life. If I could quote the whole thing, I would. I'm pretty good at movie quotes, but this one is escaping me.
It's okay. I get it. We get the gist.
Yeah. But yeah. Your biggest enemy is the one standing in front of you, and you're standing in front of a mirror. So yeah, it's one of those things where you want to be better than you were, be a better person. And again, whether it's in your job, whether it's, playing sports, etc. It's just kind of doing that to an extent. And one good story back to my baseball days was with our grandfather, where I was in high school and we got to a game like very early. He drove me to the game and he wanted to throw me batting practice. And when you throw batting practice, a pitcher's supposed to stand behind something called an L screen. And an L screen is a screen, shaped like an L. And you throw the ball, and then when you throw the ball, you're supposed to kind of like, finish behind like the screen. So if the ball comes back, it hits the screen and not you throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. Well, spoiler alert. There was no L screen. And of course, our grandfather, or Difa as we called him, he was like, I'm just going to throw to you. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, just get in there. And I stand in the batting cage and he throws me one pitch and I hit the ball right back and it just smacks him right in the face. Like hardcore line drive right to I think it was his eye.
Yeah.
And he got black and blue from his eye all the way down to almost his chest. It was really bad. Like when it happened, I thought like I really, really hurt him. But he shook it off. He's like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I think he threw me more pitches after that, which is like amazing. But it's funny where like he would have done anything just for me to get a little bit better at baseball for one game. It was like a summer league when I was like 15 years old at like, I forget, like Rutgers Prep or somewhere in New Jersey. But it was just funny that he had that much of a passion to get me better and me to appreciate that. And like you said, the biggest lesson he taught me was that no matter, how much he ever wanted me to get better at that, how much he wanted me to get a little bit better at baseball, it was never fully about baseball. It was just about taking that mentality, that intensity, and that mindset and applying it to whatever you're doing, whether it's working, whether it's raising a family, whether it's doing a whole lot of things. So just taking that, and when you make mistakes, learning from the mistakes, what you're doing, thinking about the mistakes, analyzing them, understanding why you made that mistake, what the outcome was, and then think about what you're going to do to get better at it, and then forget about it. Don't dwell on it. Mm-hmm. Don't think about it. Don't let it bring you down years later. You don't want to have thoughts in the back of your mind that are keeping you awake from 20 years ago. Just forget about it. Let it go. There's nothing you can do about it from now. It's in the past, and just keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward. It's crazy. It keeps coming full circle. I love that. I mean, our Difa, our grandfather, he was a huge impact on all of our lives, and specifically in the sporting realm. But I love what you said too. It was never just about the sport we were playing. It was never just about baseball. And I mean, I love how crazy he was.
It was
throwing batting practice with no L screen.
Yeah, and because he passed away last year, he told me not to tell that story till he
passed
died.
away.
Yeah, because he knew our dad would kill him.
But now you're sharing it with my entire audience.
Yeah, so it feels good to be able to tell
Get
that
that
story
off your chest.
People. Yeah,
Yes. No. It's good, yeah. Because I mean, that's a great story to share, because it's true. It shows his intensity, his love, and his passion, and then how that carried over into your life, into all of our lives, and how, again, it was never just about baseball. It's about so much more than that, and having the chance now to carry that over into what you're doing today with Navex and everything. And two, you mentioned that your hockey career, though, didn't necessarily end when you graduated Tech, even though your organized athletic career did. You were no longer a collegiate athlete. You continued to play ball hockey and ice hockey. So can you tell us a little bit about both of those teams that you play on? And how you kind of found those leagues. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things where a fair amount of my friends are still living in Atlanta who I played hockey with in college. So we just kind of all got together and just kind of joined these teams over time. I think like one of us started joining, then a few others came in and that kind of stuff. So obviously it's not nearly as competitive as it was in college or in high school or things like that, where you feel like you have to win games and things like that. It's more or less more of a fun thing to do. But at the same time, it keeps you obviously like, in shape and, running around, that kind of stuff. It keeps you competitive to an extent too. Obviously, you're still trying to win and score goals and not get beat and that kind of stuff. But it's something fun. It's something to look forward to on the weekends or at night. And also just it's a great stress reliever and takes your mind away from it. When you're playing hockey or whether if you're doing working out or playing or doing CrossFit or doing track, it's kind of a similar thing where you're not really thinking about anything else, whether it be work or school or whatever it is. It just you take your mind away from it for a minute. And it's kind of a nice thing. So
that really is key. allowing it to be that stress reliever. And again, it's going back to a sport that gave you so much in your whole life. And now, and then at the collegiate level too, getting to play it, but then also feeling like you are giving back to that sport because you got to be there for a lot of kids who wanted to learn about ice hockey, or maybe unknowingly you were there for them because they were learning about ice hockey for the first time just by watching you play. And then now, how the sport just continues to give to you because you get it. It allows you to have that release and that peace from maybe a hectic day at work. And even though you do love what you do with Navex, it's still, you want to have that outlet, and still having hockey be that outlet is it's pretty incredible to have that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it's always good, no matter what you're doing, to always be doing multiple things. I don't think it hurt or helps anyone to do one single thing and focus on all of that. Have multiple activities, have multiple hobbies, be good at multiple things. There's no value in just doing one thing your entire life. Like, you need things around that to, whether you're a baseball player, don't play baseball 24 hours a day. Take time to do other things, kind of a thing. Take your mind off of it, because if obviously you don't want to burn yourself out to an extent. So it's good to prioritize your time and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and it's true that learning about other things, I mean, trying to have experiences not just in other sports but in other career paths like you did, trying to find different areas, things that might pique your interest, might you might have an interest in, because I mean, I think you started baseball because our grandfather loved it, and our dad was really into baseball growing up too, so you fell into baseball. But then ice hockey, nobody in our family had played before, so it was something, you tried it out one day, and that ultimately became the sport that you loved most.
Yeah, I think our mom actually signed us up or something like that, but
yeah,
it was just completely different, something our dad never played or anything to an extent, so.
Right.
And now he loves it. So,
right, exactly.
So it's kind of funny. But
and having that support system behind you of, no matter what, if you have like a legacy of people in your family having played a certain sport or gone to a certain college or gone down a certain career path, knowing that no matter what path you independently choose, that support system, those family, that friends, they're going to support you down that path no matter what too.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, and you're a good example of that too, where you did track for the longest time. First you did gymnastics, then you did track, and then you just hopped right into CrossFit. And you seem to like really excelled at that. Now you're, like a trainer and helping people out, coaching the classes. So it's very, very cool from that standpoint to kind of switch gears and do multiple things.
Figure it out. Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it is cool. And I think it's a testament too. I mean, if you're a former athlete, collegiate or not, whatever level you end up at, how you're going to navigate that next piece of your life, just any kind of transitional piece of your life, rooting yourself in something bigger than yourself. So whether that be faith or finding yourself in athletics, whatever it is, just finding that common ground. And I think sports allows that. So even if like I'm no longer running track, but finding a sport like CrossFit, you still get to play on a men's league for ball hockey, which is kind of a random sport, but then it's aligned with ice hockey, which is something you get to still be a part of too. So it's something that allows you to navigate those transitional pieces a little bit easier because you have kind of that consistency in your life.
Yeah, no, but I would certainly think so.
Yeah.
It's just a matter, and I think I might be answering the question early, but as far as like what I want to be remembered for,
I didn't ask you yet, Nick.
Okay, well, you're leading.
You're not supposed to know the question. Okay, guys.
Well, we can cut that out post-pro, right?
Post-pro. Go ahead, though. Go ahead. Leading into the final question.
Well, now I lost my train of thought.
The final question I asked all my interviewees, Nick, is what do you want to be remembered for? You said legacy.
I wasn't trying to cut us short.
Okay.
I was just...
I'm sorry. Okay,
it was
go ahead.
Spoiler.
Spoilers. All right, your spoiler's over. Now, what is your legacy? What were we going to say?
Okay. I was going to say, like, one thing I would like to be remembered for is doing multiple things. I don't want to be known as the person who does one thing, right? You want to be known as someone who did so many different things, but those little things that you did were all connected to a bigger picture, like you mentioned.
Right.
Whether it be, and mine is to inspire and lead and help people overall from a general thing. Eventually, I would like to go into some type of management role and work. Maybe when I'm older, if I have kids, coaching them and advising them on what to do, that's kind of what I want to be remembered for, having that mindset, taking in the things I've learned from our father, our grandfather, our mother, our grandmother, our aunts and uncles, etc. Just kind of having that kind of mindset and really shaping people into becoming better, understanding that they're going to have not so many, but they're going to run into hardships, difficult problems, but to just understand that everyone goes through those and that things are going to be okay. Like, you don't have to stress out. You don't have to worry too much. You're going to be fine to an extent. Even if you get knocked on your face, fired from your job, your girlfriend breaks up with you, something like that, you're going to be okay to an extent, and you're going to get through it. So
That's good. That was very good. Very well put, Nick.
It was, yeah. Thank you.
Very, very good. Well, really, I am really grateful for this opportunity, guys, because it's true. I mean, I've been trying to get Nick on my show for a while now. I love his story. I got to grow up watching him. He was a great role model always, and you're already leaving that legacy of inspiring people and leading people because you have 2 younger sisters who look up to you. And specifically with me in sports, in the sporting world, having you to look to was just our whole lives was really inspiring. And so you're already leading that legacy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 158. Again, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes for the audio version of this podcast, but also you can subscribe to the Keep Moving Forward Creator Studio YouTube channel, because this is the very first episode that will be available there.
Number 1.
Number 1, always. Type 1, number 1. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. To learn more about our guest, check out the show notes at keepmovingforward.us. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date on all things coming out of the Keep Moving Forward Creators Studio. Always remember, you can beat the odds and go the distance, if only you keep moving forward.